Welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. So today we're going to be going off of the series that I started last week about my horrible roommates. If you're new here, you may want to go back to last week's video and watch the first video. It explains a little bit more about how I had pretty much a bad roommate every single year of college. And even though I have nothing against these people, I graduated from college about 2 years ago now, they'd still make really funny stories that I thought you guys would enjoy. Now to recap, in last week's video, we had talked about my freshman roommate and what had happened during that year and all the things that had made us together probably bad roommates. As you guys know, she had left at the semester, and then I had gotten a new roommate after that who wasn't terrible, but not the best, and we wouldn't be rooming together the next year. Since we were already students at this university, to live in the dorms again, the rooming process was a little bit different. Now what they did is, with every student, they gave a portal to sign up for a room if you were planning on living in the dorms again. And it was pretty much just showing like each floor and the room in each floor. And if you wanted to live in that particular room, you would just click on it and that would be your room. If you wanted to have a specific person room with you, you and that person would just click on the same room. Hopefully, you know, at the exact same time, and then you could switch rooms, whatever. So at the end of my freshman year, again, since I had those two not so great roommates, what I was thinking was I was going to live with my best friend. She was someone that I had went to middle school with, to high school with, and now we were in college together. We had wanted to room together before, however, when going into the year again, we just wanted to make new friends, meet new people, whatever. But by the second year, we decided we wanted to live together. This unfortunately ended up not being able to happen because she ended up leaving the university altogether after our freshman year. And so I was going to have to go again and get a random roommate. Now, if you guys watched my first video, you would know why I had qualms with having a totally random roommate and why I wanted someone that I had at least talked to and known before. So after the whole debacle of last year and that roommate situation, I decided, well, it can't be that bad to have a random roommate, because obviously I had went out, pretty much met someone, talked to them for months beforehand, and we still ended up not being a match. So I figured, what's the harm in trying to have a totally random roommate? This year was also going to be different because I had picked my room on a floor and my boyfriend had picked the room right next to mine. He also lived with one of his good friends who ended up being one of my good friends. So all in all, I decided even if me and this roommate didn't mesh well together, at least I'd be able to go to my boyfriend's room next door and be able to like escape it, hang out with them, not be in a crappy situation all the time, and everything would just be better if we did it this way. I picked my room, waited, summer break happened, and I finally learned who was going to be my random roommate. And just like everyone else, when you find your roommates, you know, you go on their Facebook, their social medias, kind of to get a gist of who this person is and if you're going to work well together. So I went on her page and I pretty much knew from the start that we probably weren't going to have a ton in common. And that wasn't, you know, that's not always a bad thing. However, I just, from her pictures and what it seemed like her interests were, it didn't seem like we had a ton that we were going to be able to connect on, to talk about. I don't know. But I decided, you know, it was kind of too late to request a new roommate, and I did like the fact that I was going to be living next to my boyfriend and my friend, so I just went along with it. I ended up talking to the girl beforehand, and she was nice, seemingly pretty much normal. And one of the things I learned, as you may know, when you're trying to get your roommate, you pretty much try and hit, or you should try and hit, all the bases of what you're going to be dealing with when you live together. And one of those things when you live together, especially in college, is alcohol and drugs. Now, pretty much everyone I knew drank alcohol, went out and partied. I was totally fine with that. I was going to have alcohol in my room too. I wanted to let her know that. She said that was fine, as she probably would too. But she also let me know that she was interested in doing different sorts of drugs and she hoped I didn't mind. And I told her, really, I don't mind. For me, it's none of my business. I've pretty much always been relatively accepting of that kind of thing. And I just told her, you know, literally, you can have a meth lab in the room. In exaggeration, of course, seriously, but, you know, it's like, you can have anything in the room. I don't care, so long as you keep it at least, like, hidden in the room. And what I meant by that, and I explained it to her, was like, you know, if you have some sort of illegal substance, you know, keep it in your desk drawer, in your dresser drawer, under your bed, in your hamper of clothes, in your closet. Wherever you want to keep it, I don't mind, so long as it's hidden in your stuff, so it's not out in the open, around my things. And my biggest concern with that is because at the time I thought I wanted to join the FBI, and I wanted to work with them, and getting caught with drugs in the room would have been put on my record. I would have been kicked out of the dorms. I could have gotten, you know, kicked out of the university if things were found in my stuff and I wasn't using the drugs. I would have been really upset by that. So I just let her know, you know, keep it in your things, keep it hidden, and I'm totally fine with it. I don't care. So the rest of summer break passed, school had started, I moved in. She had moved in a little bit before me. So, you know, everything seemed to be fine and dandy. And then a couple of things that were really weird started happening pretty much immediately upon moving in. Again, we really had very different interests. For me, I mean, like, all the things I was interested in, she wasn't. All the things she was interested in, I wasn't. The only really common ground we had was that we were both psychology majors. But she even wanted to do a different path than I did. She definitely was more on the counseling side of it. She had told me she wanted to be a drug counselor, and I definitely wasn't going on that path. I was going into a different realm of psychology, at least at the time that I thought that I was going to be going into more behavioral psychology and forensic psychology, stuff like that. But psychology was pretty much our only common ground. One of the things that really did kind of bother me, especially when we started talking, was that I brought pretty much everything. I brought a microwave, I brought a fridge, I brought a TV, I brought my fan, I brought literally everything, and she brought nothing. And, you know, I understand not everyone can afford those kinds of things. I mean, my fridge, I didn't even buy. It was my mom's fridge when she was in college, so this thing was from the 80s. It's literally like maybe this big. It's tiny. But I still brought it because it worked, and, you know, I had it at my use. So we had our own things, but she would constantly want to use my things. Like, one of the biggest things I remember that just kind of made me mad is I had told her, you can use my fridge, however, this thing is really, really small, and I'm gonna be putting my food and drinks in there. So just, yes, you're using this, and it's mine, and I'm allowing you to use it, but be respectful. And one day she had texted me and told me, like, oh, my mom brought me this pan of lasagna, whatever, I'm putting it in the fridge, you can have some if you want. I thought that was nice. I don't like lasagna, so for me it wasn't like, hooray, but it was nice of her to offer. But then when I got back in the room, I had wanted a snack, and I opened the fridge, and I noticed that her heavy pan of lasagna was placed right on top of my bag of grapes. So all my grapes were smashed, I couldn't eat them. And if you guys know anything about fruits and vegetables, they're expensive. No one tells you that growing up, but when you have to start buying them yourself, they're expensive. So an entire bag of grapes was wasted because she was not courteous and just plopped them right down on top of my grapes, and that upset me. She would just do stuff like that all the time, just not be courteous, even though I was doing her a favor and letting her use my things. It was just all around not a good situation because I was allowing her to use these things, and she just wasn't appreciative, I guess, of it, or if she was, she wasn't courteous of it. Another thing she would do, and this was just adding on to like the weird things, was she would watch these really weird shows, and again, she didn't have her own TV, so it's not like she was putting it on for us to watch. She would watch it on her laptop, but on full blast. So if I was in there trying to study or do whatever, she would put this on full blast and just watch it in her bed So it's not like something we could even like engage together in or do anything with. She would just be watching it instead of putting headphones in. And that was another thing that was weird. Another thing she would do that was really totally weird to me was, so like I said, we had nothing in common. We really just, we didn't mesh well. So I spent a lot of time next door in my boyfriend and friend's room, and we would have really good time, but sometimes, you know, I would need to go back to my room to do, you know, whatever, come back in between classes. If I wanted to study and have someplace quiet, I'd go to my room. But every single time I'd go in there to study, I'd sit down at my desk, open my books, whatever, and it'd be quiet in there because, again, right next door, so I can hear everything that's going on in there, and when I'd walk in, it'd be quiet, nothing would be happening. So I'd start studying, everything would be fine, and then almost every single time she'd turn on these like chants, these weird chants, like on her iTunes, and I'd just be like, what's going on, why? And I'd be trying to study, but she'd put on these chants, and then I couldn't study. And so in the end, I'd just end up packing up my books again and either going next door to my boyfriend's room or to one of the other buildings where I could study, like anywhere but in there, because every time I'd go in there to try and study and she was in there, she'd turn on the chants, and I'm not sure why. So as you can imagine, with all these like just little things building up, I was getting pretty annoyed with being in the room and just dealing with that. But I wasn't like, there was no really real tension between us. But then something happened that just totally made me just think she was the worst roommate ever. And that was just a small piece. So one day I was coming back from a class, I walked in, we were on pretty opposite schedules when it came to class times. So a lot of times when I'd be coming back from class, she'd either be leaving or gone already. And then when I was leaving, she'd be either coming back. It's just our schedules weren't always meshing up. So I was coming back from a class, I'd gotten lunch, I walked in, and I always ate lunch in my room because it was like a class about like, I think it was a 2-hour break, then another class after that. So I'd go to my class, get lunch, chill in my room, then go back to class. So I was getting my stuff, I put everything down, and how my room was set up was the door was here, my bed was on the wall next to the door, and then my dresser was in between that, and then her bed was behind there. And then she had her dresser, I'm pretty sure, in her closet and everything. But this was like my dresser. And I had put my TV on there, and it was facing my bed, and this TV was like a 13-inch TV. It was teeny. And it was facing my bed, and then I had, you know, all my clothes in my drawers, and I'm sure a couple little things also on my dresser, like the top part. And whatever, but this was definitely my dresser. It wasn't a shared commodity in the room. Each dorm room came with 2 beds, 2 dressers, 2 desks, and 2 closets. So I came back and I noticed there was a little like red thing on my dresser that I didn't recall leaving there, and I've never seen before. I was curious about it, so I, you know, put down my stuff. I pick up the red canister and I look at it. And it's definitely like about this big, you know, like an old film cartridge. That's what it looked like. And I picked it up and I opened it, and it was just filled with weed. I was like, Jesus Christ. Because I didn't know what to do with it. And the thing was, again, with me, I wanted to be in the FBI at this time. So for me, not getting caught with these kinds of things in my room or on my furniture was really important to me. So I text her right away, and let's just call her Sandra. I should have probably named her at the beginning of this. I'm gonna start doing that from now on. But anyway, Sandra, I text her and I say, hey Sandra, just so you know, I just came back from class and I found your weed on my dresser. And I'm not trying to be mean, I'm not trying to be harsh or rude. However, the one thing I asked of you was to not leave your drugs out in the open. And not just that, but to not leave your drugs out on my things. I would be less mad or not mad at all if this would have been on her dresser or on her desk or even on her bed, but she left it on my things. So if I had just left the door open, especially because my dresser and my bed was like right in front of the door, and someone had seen that and walked in and then opened all the drawers and looked at things, it would have been my stuff. So no one would be able to assume like, oh, this isn't Maddie's, this is Sandra's. Of course it's Sandra's. It didn't say Sandra on it. It was on my things. And if she wanted to deny it and just be like, no, that's Maddie's, would anyone really question it? Because it was on stuff. It wasn't on her stuff. So that's what really made me mad, and I was pretty upset about it just because we had gone over it even before we'd moved in, and she had assured me that that wouldn't happen. And she was super apologetic, made sure like to say it never happened again and that she was so sorry and she wasn't thinking. And I was so annoyed about it, but I let it go. I just said, you know, whatever, just don't let it happen again. But after that, I was pretty annoyed with Sandra, and there was more tension building because of this event that had happened, and then of course the other little things, and then there was other small things that happened. Like one day on a Monday morning, I'd come back from my boyfriend's room, and this, we're talking like, this is like 8:39 in the morning on a Monday. The room smelled terrible, and I see her puking in a garbage can next to her bed. It's a Monday morning, and I'm trying to get ready for school, I'm trying to get ready for class, and she's just laying in there puking. And again, it's college, I understand, people go out. But this was on a Monday morning, so it was just kind of like, what the heck? And then she had also had, you know, she'd have random guys in there. And common courtesy, especially since I'm right next door, is just to tell me like, hey, I'm gonna have a guy over, just to let you know, here's what's going on. And she wouldn't tell me, so I just would walk in. It would be so awkward. And then, like, those are things that were just like, what the heck? Because they're so weird. It was always just really, really weird occurrences that would just keep happening all year. And then I found out, and this was another big thing that I just morally had such a huge problem with. One weekend, she had been gone for a while, and of course, like, she went out, she had her own friends, I went out, I had my own friends, but she had been gone for a while, and things were kind of weird, and she hadn't told me she was going home or anything, so I was just really weirded out by it. But then, it was either the Sunday or the Monday or Tuesday after that. She came back, and she just looked like a mess, and I didn't know what was going on. And she let me know that that weekend she had gotten a DUI. And for me, DUIs are just like I understand everyone makes mistakes, but to make such a big mistake, and not just any mistake, but a mistake that could cost not only your life or the passengers in your car's life, but, you know, people on the streets' life, other people in cars' lives, like innocent people who had no part in your bad decision making. You could hurt them or kill them. So for me, that's just, you know, I don't mess around with that. And I don't want to mess around with people who are doing that kind of stuff. But she basically explained the story that her and her friends had driven to a restaurant, and then we went to a party after and got really drunk there, drinking all night. And then in the early hours of the morning, they decided they wanted to go back home, but they had to bring the car back. Her reasoning was that she was the least drunk, so she should have been okay to drive. So she drove from the restaurant, and all you had to do was take a right out of this restaurant, go straight, go left for about a mile, and then turn right into the parking lot, and then you're at the place. So this was not a far drive at all. So I don't even understand why they drove to the restaurant. And I'm saying restaurant, I'm pretty sure it was the McDonald's. So it's not like they went out to eat beforehand, they needed to drive, and then they went to a party. It was a McDonald's, and it wasn't far from our dorm. And from the McDonald's was a little bit of a walk, but I mean, if you know you're going to be going to a house party after, you should walk. And she ended up driving, and I guess in the police report she was saying that the police pulled her over because she was swerving down the main road out of our campus with her headlights off. And obviously got pulled over, and she said she didn't think that they would notice she was drunk. However, I think she told me she ended up blowing like a .12 or something, or a .14. It was something like that. It was definitely over a .08. So she was definitely drunk. She was definitely getting a DUI, and she did. And she was upset about it. Her trying to reason with it was that she was just trying to make the safest choice possible because her friends were drunker than she was. So she was doing the responsible thing. And I just remember being so mad at that. And being like, how is you drunk driving more responsible than your friends drunk driving? Because either way, you were drunk driving. Like, maybe they would have had a higher BAC in the breathalyzer, but it's still irresponsible for you to drunk drive. And I just couldn't believe that. And she was upset because not only did she have this DUI charge now, but she had been charged earlier with a drug charge and a possession charge. And so she was upset about that. She thought she was going to get a harsher sentence or fine or whatever. And that then she would have to, deal with the drug charge and the DUI charge. And she said her parents were trying to get rid of the drug charge. And I was just like, Jesus, girl, you are a friggin' hot mess. And not only are you a hot mess, but you are a dangerous hot mess because you're rationalizing your drunk driving. You think this was fine and a responsible choice, and like you're not understanding the fact that this was a really, really dangerous and bad choice. So that made me really, really, really not like her. I couldn't even believe that happened after it did. After that, I pretty much was like, I can't wait to get a new roommate. I can't wait for this semester to be over. After that, of course, there was a lot more tension. I was spending less time in the room, and it was pretty much just me avoiding her because I didn't want to associate. I didn't want to know anything else. I just didn't want to be around it. So one of these weekends, I had invited up my friend, the friend that I was supposed to live with this year. Like I said, she had left before, so she would come up and visit. And one of these visits, she was staying just with me, and we were going to spend the weekend together. But because my roommate was so weird, and I told her all these stories, we were just going to stay in my boyfriend's room since he had a futon, and I stayed in there a lot anyway. And so we wouldn't have to deal with my roommate, Sandra. So, our weekend goes on. It's fine. It's good. Whatever. We have fun. Then comes Sunday, and my friend is getting ready to leave. And although we had stayed in my boyfriend's room, she had kept most of her clothes and most of her shoes and stuff back in my room. So as she was getting ready, I was just chilling, and I gave her my key. I was like, you want to go grab your stuff? You can go grab it, whatever. You can keep it in here until you want to leave. She's gone for a couple minutes. She comes back, gives me back the key, and she goes, so hey, Sandra's selling drugs in your room. I was like, what? No, she isn't. Like, laughing it off, because, obviously I told my friend about all the stories, like, all the things that Sandra had done, and, like, how I was just sick of her, and sick of all the antics. So when she said that, I was pretty much just like, you're joking. That's not happening. She's not selling drugs in my room. And my friend just goes, no, seriously. She just did a drug deal in your room. I was in there packing my stuff. So I just look at her and I'm like, okay. So you're serious? I gotta go deal with that. So I get up and I go to my room and I notice that 2 other girls are leaving now and they're, giggling, whatever. And I go in there and it's very obvious to me that Sandra is out of it. Totally out of it. And I just lay into her after that, just yelling at her, telling her like, I'm so done with this. I had asked so little of her to literally just keep the drugs out of sight. If she was gonna do a frigging drug deal, do it in your car. She obviously had a car. Like, just laying into her about how like the things that she was doing in my room don't just affect her, but affect me too. And how, like, of all the things she's done this year, this is what she decided to do after she had promised me before that she wasn't going to do this kind of thing again. And the yelling at her pretty much was meaningless and stupid because she was obviously high, and she just like on her bed, curled up in a ball like this. And I just was like, okay, Sandra, I'm gonna leave now. So I just walked back into my room and I asked my friend, you know, so what was she doing? Like, what happened? She basically told me that Sandra was selling drugs to this girl. It was actually just acid. And she was selling acid to these two girls because it was one of the girls' birthdays or something and they wanted acid for it. And whatever. I was pissed about that. Again, later, I'm guessing after she came down from being high, she apologized again. And basically, I just told her, like, I don't care anymore if you apologize. Like, obviously, you're not sorry because you keep doing these things over and over and over again. And, you know, I've asked you not to. It's not like I'm asking you to not do drugs or to not drink. I'm just asking you to not have drugs out in the open in our room. That was it. You know, like, just keep them in your stuff, and if you're going to use them, take them and leave. I didn't think that was asking too much. But from there, she was actually pretty tame after that encounter. I think that happened pretty much like maybe a month before we were supposed to leave. Or like a month and a half before we were supposed to leave for summer break. But after that, she was pretty tame. I mean, she still did all the really weird little things, but I didn't see her drugs out anymore. From what I can tell, she wasn't selling drugs out of the room anymore. I don't think she was getting drunk in the mornings anymore. And she was still doing a lot of other really weird stuff, but other than that, she was pretty much fine. After the end of the year, you know, we parted ways. I saw her a couple more times. Surprisingly, we never had a class together because we were in the same major, so I kind of expected to maybe have a class with her, but we never did. I'm pretty sure she got held back a semester. I ended up becoming friends with someone that she was close to, and I do know that she had gotten into some trouble in some class, and you're pretty much just, you know, doing the same things she was before. That was pretty much my disaster of a roommate my sophomore year. I mean, as much stress as it caused me and as much tension was in that situation, I really do hope she's doing better. I mean, like, looking back on it, I was young. I was 19 my sophomore year. So for me, her doing those things made me mad and they annoyed me. But now, being older, I think, like, she probably did have some kind of substance abuse problem or dependency problem, and I maybe should have been a little more sympathetic towards that. I really do hope she's doing better. I hope she's not doing, you know, any of the things she was before, like, you know, drinking and driving. I hope she's not selling drugs anymore. So I really hope she's grown up since we lived together and has moved on and is doing better in her life. I think the last thing I heard was that she actually did get a grad school program, so from what I know now, she's doing at least a little bit better, and so that's great for her. Anyway, guys, that was my second in the 4-part series of my bad roommate story times. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever dealt with a roommate like that, or if you were the roommate like that, and let me know what you think is going to be something that happens in my next roommate story time. Like I said, I've had a bad roommate every single year in college, and this is only part 2. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying this storytime series. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.